I abandoned my newborn son in a hospital room and walked away forever. They called me a monster. They were right. But here's what they didn't know. 24 hours before I gave birth, I walked into my bedroom and found my husband in bed with my best friend. They were laughing, in the bed where we'd conceived our child. Under the candles I'd lit that morning. 5 years later, my phone rang. My son was dying. He had 6 weeks to live, and I was the only person on earth who could save him. The man who destroyed me was now begging me to come back. Let me take you back to the day it all began and ended. I was 30 weeks pregnant. Glowing, they said. Happy. Stupid. I left my ultrasound appointment early. Our son was perfect. Healthy. I couldn't wait to tell Marcus. I drove home planning the nursery, thinking about names, thinking our life was about to get better. I pulled into our driveway at 2:13 p.m. Thursday, middle of the afternoon. His car was already there. Strange. He wasn't supposed to be home until 6. The front door was unlocked. I'd left it that way that morning. I kicked off my shoes at the entrance. Our rule. The rule we made together. I climbed the stairs. My back ached. 30 weeks pregnant, everything ached. I needed to lie down. The bedroom door was open. I saw Marcus first, shirtless, sitting on our bed, looking at his phone with this smile. This private, satisfied smile. Then I saw the shape under our sheets. Then I saw her face. Rena. My best friend since college. The woman who'd thrown my baby shower 3 weeks earlier. Who'd cried during her toast. Who'd said I deserved all the happiness in the world. She was pulling the sheet up, covering herself, like modesty mattered after what they'd done. The room smelled like vanilla. The 3 candles I'd lit that morning before my appointment, still burning on the dresser. I tried to say something. My throat closed. No sound came out. Marcus turned, saw me standing there. His phone dropped from his hand, hit the bed, bounced. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then Rena said, "Lena, I took 1 step backward. Marcus stood up fast. "Wait, let me explain." I took another step back. "It's not what it looks like," he said. I looked at Rena, at the sheet clutched to her chest, at her clothes on my floor, at Marcus's pants beside the bed. "It's not what it looks like," he said again. I turned around, walked down the hallway, down the stairs. Behind me, I heard him scrambling. "Lena, stop! We need to talk about this." I kept walking. My purse was on the kitchen counter, my keys beside it. My phone was upstairs charging. I wasn't going back for it. I got in my car. His car was blocking mine in the driveway. I reversed onto the lawn, our perfect lawn, the grass we'd reseeded in April, the grass he'd spent every Saturday watering. My tires tore deep tracks through it. I drove around his car. In my rearview mirror, I saw him run out of the house, shirtless, shouting something I couldn't hear. I drove, no plan, no destination, just away. 30 minutes later, my gas light came on. I pulled into a station and sat there, engine running, staring at the steering wheel. I couldn't remember how to open the gas cap. I couldn't remember anything except the smell of those vanilla candles, the candles I'd lit to make our home welcoming. For him. A teenage boy knocked on my window. "You need help, ma'am?" I nodded. He filled my tank. I paid cash, drove north. My uncle lived 2 hours away. I'd been there once, last Christmas. He'd made a joke about his street name, Maple Street. Said it was on brand for a man who made furniture. I found his house at 7:34 p.m. His truck was in the driveway. I knocked. When he opened the door, he looked at my face and knew. He didn't ask what happened. He just said, "Come in." I made it to his couch. Then my legs gave out. That was 7:42 p.m. At 11:47 p.m., my water broke. The hospital was 20 minutes away. Contractions were 11 minutes apart when we left his house, 7 minutes apart when we arrived, 4 minutes when they admitted me. A nurse asked if I wanted to call anyone. "No," I said. "Your husband?" She pressed gently. No. Labor lasted 7 hours. I didn't scream, didn't cry. I just breathed through it like the classes taught me. The classes I'd taken with Marcus, classes where we'd practiced breathing together, where he'd promised he'd be there for me, where he'd held my hand and said, "We're in this together." The baby came at 6:51 a.m., 7 pounds, 4 ounces, a boy. They put him on my chest. He was warm and wet and screaming. Then he stopped screaming. Just looked up at me with unfocused eyes. My nose, Marcus's eyes, my chin, his ears. The nurse smiled. "What's his name?" I heard my voice say, "Ethan," the name we'd chosen. Together, sitting on our couch 3 months ago, Marcus's hand on my belly. "Ethan Marcus Reeves," he'd said. "Strong name." The nurse wrote it down. They took him to clean him up. My uncle held him while they stitched me up, while they checked my vitals, while I stared at the ceiling and felt absolutely nothing. 2 hours later, I woke up from a nap I didn't remember starting. Marcus was standing in the doorway. My uncle must have called him. I didn't ask. Marcus looked at me, then at the baby in the plastic bassinet beside my bed. "Can I hold him?" he asked quietly. I looked at the wall. He took that as yes. He picked up Ethan. Our son made a small sound, settled against his father's chest, like he belonged there. Marcus started crying, silent tears running down his face onto the blue hospital blanket. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Lena, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. I love you. I love you so much. Please, please let me fix this." I kept staring at the wall. "It was a mistake," he said. "One stupid mistake. It didn't mean anything. She didn't mean anything." I wondered if Rena knew she didn't mean anything. "Please," he said. "We have a son now. We're a family. We can work through this." A nurse came in, looked at the scene, looked at me. "Do you need privacy?" "No," I said. "She can stay." The nurse stayed. Marcus kept crying, kept holding our son, kept saying he was sorry. I said nothing. 35 minutes later, my uncle returned. He wasn't alone. He'd brought a lawyer. Marcus finally looked up from Ethan. "What's going on?" My uncle's voice was calm, level. "She's making arrangements." The lawyer had papers, custody agreements, temporary orders, standard procedure for these situations, he said. Marcus started reading. His face changed with every line. Confusion, disbelief, horror. "You're leaving him with me?" His voice cracked. "You can't be serious. You can't just—" "I can," I said. My first words since he'd entered the room. The lawyer explained. I was relinquishing primary custody. Marcus would have full physical custody. I would pay child support. I would have visitation rights if I chose to exercise them. "This is insane," Marcus said. "You're not thinking straight. You just gave birth. You're emotional. You don't mean this." "Sign it," I said. "No, absolutely not. I'm not signing anything. We're going to go home. We're going to be a family. We're going to—" "Sign it, Marcus." Something in my voice stopped him. He looked at Ethan sleeping against his chest, at me, at the papers. "Where will you go?" he asked quietly. I didn't answer. "When will you come back?" "Sign the papers." "Lena, please! He needs his mother. I need you. We can fix this. I promise I'll never—" "Sign the papers." He signed. His hand shook, but he signed. The lawyer witnessed, made copies, told me to call if I needed anything. I wouldn't call. My uncle took me back to his house that afternoon. The doctors wanted to keep me 2 more days. I discharged myself against medical advice. Ethan stayed with Marcus. The hospital provided a room, taught him how to change diapers, how to hold a bottle, how to burp a newborn, how to be a father. I didn't go to that room. For 4 days, I stayed in my uncle's guest room, bleeding. That's what happens after you have a baby. Your body empties itself out, makes room for what comes next. There was no next thing. I slept, didn't eat much, stared at the ceiling. My uncle brought me food, didn't ask questions. On the 5th day, I asked to see the baby. He drove me back to the hospital. The maternity ward smelled like disinfectant and new life. Other mothers walked the hallways with their babies, smiling, tired but happy. I found Marcus's room. The door was half open. He was asleep in a chair beside Ethan's bassinet, fully dressed, shoes still on, his hand resting on the edge of the bassinet. Like even in sleep, he was making sure our son was still there. A nurse saw me, smiled. "He hasn't left," she whispered. 5 days. He's been here the whole time." I stood in the doorway. Ethan's fingers curled and uncurled in his sleep. Such small fingers. Perfect fingers. I'd built those fingers. From nothing. From my body. From cells and time. I walked into the room, quietly. My footsteps soft. I reached the bassinet, picked him up. He was heavier than 5 days ago. Babies gain weight fast. I sat in the other chair, the one across from Marcus, held my son. He opened his eyes. Unfocused. Newborn eyes. Couldn't really see me yet. Wouldn't remember me anyway. I touched his hand, his fingers wrapped around my thumb. The grip reflex. Automatic. Didn't mean anything. I counted his toes through the blanket. All 10. All perfect. Marcus woke up, saw me holding Ethan. He started to say something. I stood up, put Ethan back in the bassinet, walked out. Marcus called after me. Lena, wait, please." I kept walking. That was the last time I held my son. For 5 years. My uncle drove me to the bus station the next morning. "You don't have to do this," he said in the parking lot. I bought a ticket to the first city south. Didn't matter which one, just away from here. "Call me when you get there," he said. I wouldn't call. The bus smelled like industrial cleaner and old French fries. I sat in the back, watched my entire life disappear through the window. The apartment I found was a 4th-floor walk-up, no elevator, paper-thin walls. The couple next door fought every single night. The shower barely got warm. 2 burners on the stove didn't work. It cost everything in my checking account. First month, last month, security deposit. I had $62 left. I bought ramen, instant coffee, a notebook from the dollar store. That first week I slept on the floor. No furniture, no bed, just me and carpet that smelled like cigarettes and whoever lived there before. I bled for 3 more weeks. That's normal after childbirth. Your body cleaning itself out. I found work washing dishes at an all-night diner, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., cash under the table. The manager didn't ask for references, didn't ask questions, just needed someone who'd show up and wouldn't steal. I showed up. The work was good. Hot water, grease, plates that needed scrubbing. My hands bled from the chemicals. I didn't mind. It was something to feel besides the emptiness. I saved every dollar, lived on shift meals, day-old bread, free coffee refills. At night, after my shift, I'd walk back to my apartment as the sun came up. I'd pass other people starting their days, going to real jobs, normal jobs, living normal lives. I wondered if any of them had destroyed their entire lives in a single moment. 4 months in, I had $1,500 saved. I bought a laptop, used. The screen had a crack across one corner. The battery only lasted 40 minutes, but it worked. I taught myself to code. The public library had internet. I went there every afternoon before my shift, took free online courses, watched tutorials until my eyes burned and my head pounded. The syntax made sense, more sense than people did. You put the right commands in the right order, and things happened. Predictable, logical, clean, no betrayal in code, just errors you could debug. 7 months after I left, I started applying for junior developer positions. 112 applications, 3 interviews, 0 offers. I kept applying. Month 9, someone finally said yes, a startup. 6 people in a converted warehouse. They offered $26,000 a year. It was more money than I'd ever seen. I quit the diner. The startup was building a platform for small businesses, task management, project tracking, nothing revolutionary. But the founder believed in it. I was junior developer number 3. I worked 16-hour days, learned everything, wrote code, fixed bugs, asked questions, made myself useful. 4 months later, the startup failed, ran out of funding. The founder gathered us on a Friday afternoon, said he was sorry, paid us through the end of the week. That was it. I had $1,900 saved. Rent was $850. I had $1,050 and no job. That night I sat on my apartment floor. No furniture still. Just me and that same cigarette smell carpet. Next door, the couple was fighting again. Something about his mother, about money, about how they never should have gotten married. I opened my laptop. I'd been building something on the side, a project management tool, nothing fancy, just something I had made for myself, to track my job applications, to organize my learning, to stay sane. It was rough, full of bugs, barely functional, but it worked. I spent the next 72 hours finishing it, didn't sleep, lived on ramen and coffee, fixed every bug I could find, made it presentable. Then I sold it, listed it on a freelancer marketplace. Basic project management tool for small teams, $50. Someone bought it in 4 hours. Then someone else messaged me, asked if I could customize it for their business, offered $120. Then another message. Someone wanted features added. $250. I kept building, kept selling, small tools, simple solutions, things people actually needed. Month 1, I made $2,000. Month 2, $4,000. Month 3, $13,000. I moved out of the cigarette carpet apartment, got a 1-bedroom with a working shower. All 4 burners on the stove functioned. I bought a bed, slept in it alone. 6 months after my first sale, I incorporated. Hired a real lawyer, set up an LLC, opened a business bank account. The bank teller asked what kind of business. Software development, I said. It was the first time I'd said it out loud. It felt real. I hired contractors, then employees, 4 people, then 9, then 15. We moved into actual office space, not someone's warehouse, not my apartment, a real office with a conference room and a coffee maker that actually worked. I named the company something simple, something neutral, just a word that sounded professional and meant nothing. Year 2, revenue hit $380,000. Year 3, $920,000. I bought a house. Not huge. 3 bedrooms, a yard, a garage. I lived there alone. I worked 70-hour weeks, slept 5 hours a night, hired aggressively, scaled fast, made decisions, solved problems, built something from nothing. I never thought about Ethan. That's a lie. I thought about him every single day. Every morning when I woke up, I counted. He's 6 months old now. He's a year old now. He's walking now. He's talking now. I wondered what his voice sounded like. I wondered if he looked like me or Marcus. I wondered if he asked where his mother was. I wondered if Marcus told him the truth, that his mother had walked away, that she'd chosen herself over him. Year 4 started strong. Revenue was on track to hit $2 million. We'd just landed 3 major clients. I was interviewing CFO candidates. Everything was working. Then my phone rang. Not my cell, my office line, the number only clients and lawyers had. Ms. Reeves? A woman's voice, professional, cold. Yes? This is Jennifer Hartfield from Hartfield & Associates. I represent Marcus Reeves. I'm calling to inform you that my client is filing a motion to increase child support payments based on your documented income increase. I stopped breathing. According to public records, your company Nexus Solutions LLC has shown significant revenue growth over the past 3 years. My client has been the sole caretaker of your son Ethan for 4 years. He's incurred substantial expenses, medical, educational, child care. He's entitled to support proportional to your income. I've been paying support, I said. My voice sounded far away. $800 a month, based on your income 4 years ago. Your income has since increased by approximately 2,000%. We're seeking an adjustment to $6,000 per month, retroactive to 18 months ago. $6,000 per month, $72,000 per year, plus retroactive. That was another $108,000, $180,000. You'll be served with papers next week, the lawyer said. I suggest you retain counsel. She hung up. I sat at my desk. Marcus was suing me. The man who'd destroyed everything was now coming for my money, and legally he had every right to do it. I hired a lawyer, a good one, expensive. She reviewed the case, looked at my financials, looked at the custody agreement. He's going to win, she said. You have substantial income. He has primary custody. The court will adjust support. How much? Probably what he's asking. Maybe more. I paid it. Not because I had to. The legal battle could have dragged on for months. I paid it because somewhere in my head, I thought maybe it would help me sleep better. It didn't. Year 4, revenue hit $2.3 million. A venture capital firm reached out. Wanted to invest. Wanted to scale. Offered $4 million for 30%. I took it. Year 5, the company was valued at $28 million. I owned 47%. On paper, I was worth $13 million. I bought a bigger house, 3 bedrooms, a yard, a garage, a home office. I lived there alone. My team grew to 32 people. We had clients in 14 states. Revenue was projected to hit $8 million. I was profiled in a tech magazine. From nothing to $28 million, one woman's journey. They asked about my inspiration, my drive, what kept me going. I said something about seeing opportunities where others saw obstacles. I didn't mention that I was running from my own reflection. I didn't mention that every success felt hollow. I didn't mention that I'd built an empire and lost my soul. While I was building my company, Marcus was building our son. I didn't know this at the time. I'd learn it later. But I need to tell you now because it matters. While I was closing my first deal, Marcus was teaching Ethan to walk. While I was hiring employee number 10, Ethan was asking where mommy was. While I was moving into my first real office, Marcus was explaining to a 4-year-old why some kids have 2 parents at pickup and he only had 1. While I was celebrating my first $1 million in revenue, Marcus was sitting in a parent-teacher conference alone, listening to Ethan's preschool teacher say, "He's doing well, but he seems to have some abandonment anxiety." While I was being profiled in magazines, Marcus was working full-time at my uncle's furniture store, coming home exhausted, and still finding the energy to read bedtime stories, pack lunches, check homework, attend every school event. He was becoming the parent I should have been, and somewhere in that process, he was becoming someone different, someone better, someone who understood what he'd broken and was trying every day to build something good from the wreckage. But I didn't know any of this yet. All I knew was that I was rich and empty and alone. Then my phone rang, Thursday afternoon, 5 years, 2 months, and 16 days after I'd walked out of that hospital. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Hello? It's me. Don't hang up." My uncle's voice. "I'm not hanging up," I said. "It's Ethan." My hand went to my stomach, automatic, nothing there. Hadn't been for 5 years. "What about him?" "He's sick. Very sick." The office went quiet. Or maybe my hearing stopped working. I couldn't tell. "What kind of sick?" "Leukemia. Acute lymphoblastic. They found it 3 weeks ago. He's been in treatment, but he's not responding. They need to do a bone marrow transplant. They tested Marcus. He's not a match." "Okay," I said. My voice sounded strange, clinical, like I was discussing someone else's child. "They're checking the registry, but it could take months. The doctor says he has 6 weeks, maybe 8 if they're lucky." 6 weeks. My son had 6 weeks to live. The son I'd held once, for 20 minutes, 5 years ago. Where's Marcus? I said. Falling apart. He's barely holding it together. He's been at the hospital for 3 weeks straight. He looks like hell, Lena. He's trying, but this is too big. He can't do this alone. What do you need me to do? Come home, my uncle said. Your son needs you. My son. I'd given up that right 5 years ago. I'll book a flight, I said. I hung up. Called my assistant. Clear my schedule. Everything. I don't know when I'll be back. Is everything okay? No, I said. Nothing's okay. The flight left in 3 hours. First class. I could afford first class now. I could afford anything now. None of it mattered. I packed a bag, laptop, charger, clothes. I moved like I was someone else, like I was watching myself from outside my body. The plane lifted off. I watched the city disappear below. The city where I'd rebuilt myself from $62 and a cracked laptop, where I'd become someone successful, someone powerful, someone who'd abandoned her dying child. The descent made my ears pop. I rented a car at the airport, drove to the hospital, the same hospital where I'd given birth, where I'd held Ethan for the first and last time. The parking garage smelled like exhaust and concrete. My hands were steady on the wheel. 5 years of building a company had trained the shake out of me. I found the pediatric wing. The nurse at the desk asked who I was visiting. Ethan Reeves. She checked her computer. Her expression changed slightly, like she'd heard something about the mother who left. Room 304. The hallway was long. My heels clicked on linoleum, professional shoes, expensive shoes, Italian leather. Nothing like the woman who'd left this hospital 5 years ago. Room 304. The door was open. I stopped at the threshold. Ethan was in the bed, asleep, 5 years old, not a newborn, a child, a person, with my nose, Marcus's eyes, my chin, his ears, tubes in his arm, monitors beeping, hospital bracelet on his wrist. He was thin, too thin. His skin was pale against the white pillow. His hair, my color, looked dull. Marcus was in a chair beside the bed. He looked up, saw me. His face did something complicated, too many emotions at once. Surprise, relief, something that looked like pain, something that looked like hope. He stood up, started to say something. I held up my hand, looked at our son instead. I took one step into the room, then another. Marcus moved back, gave me space. I reached the bed, looked down at the boy I'd carried, the boy I'd left, the boy who'd lived 5 years without me. His eyes opened, looked right at me. "Who are you?" he asked. My throat closed, same as 5 years ago, same as that bedroom, same as those vanilla candles. I tried to speak. Nothing came out. Marcus answered for me, his voice gentle. "This is your mom, buddy." Ethan looked at me, then at his father, back at me. "Oh," he said. Just that. "Oh." Like I was a teacher he'd heard about but never met, a distant relative, someone who existed in theory. He closed his eyes again. "The medication makes him tired," Marcus said quietly. "He sleeps most of the day." I stepped back from the bed. Marcus followed me into the hallway. He looked different. Older, obviously. 5 years does that. But something else, too. The way he stood, the way he looked at me without looking away, like he'd learned to hold uncomfortable things. "Thank you for coming," he said. I nodded. "The doctors say he needs a bone marrow transplant. They tested me. I'm not a match. They're checking the registry, but it could take months. He doesn't have months." "What's the timeline?" 6 weeks. Maybe 8 if we're lucky. 6 weeks. I pulled out my phone, called my assistant. "I need you to connect me with the heads of oncology at Johns Hopkins, Sloan Kettering, and Mayo Clinic. I need consultations scheduled by end of week. Money is not a factor. I need the best transplant teams in the country looking at this case." Marcus stared at me. I kept talking. "Second opinions, third opinions, whatever it takes. I want every option explored." I hung up. Marcus was still staring. "You can just do that?" he asked. "Yes." "Just like that?" "Yes." Something crossed his face. Not resentment, not quite gratitude either. Something between. "Things really changed for you," he said. "Things changed," I agreed. We stood there. The hallway smelled like antiseptic and recycled air. 5 years ago, I'd run from this smell. Now I was walking back into it. "Where are you staying?" he asked. "I'll find a hotel." "You could stay at the—" He stopped himself. "Right. Hotel's better." I went back into the room, sat in the chair across from Marcus, the other chair, the one I'd sat in 5 years ago, watched our son sleep. The machines beeped. His chest rose and fell. The fourth drip counted drops. Neither of us spoke. I stayed until visiting hours ended. Found a hotel 4 blocks away. Corporate, clean, anonymous. Slept 3 hours. My phone rang at 6 a.m. Johns Hopkins could see us Thursday. Sloan Kettering Friday. Mayo Clinic was reviewing the case. I forwarded everything to Marcus. He called 10 minutes later. "How did you—" "I'll pick you up at 8, I said. "We're going to Johns Hopkins first." I hung up. Thursday, we drove to Baltimore. 3 hours. Ethan slept in the back seat. Marcus drove. I sat passenger side. Same positions as 5 years ago when I'd driven to that ultrasound appointment. Different car. His car was old now. The air conditioning made a rattling sound. "I can rent us something," I said. "It's fine." "The AC is broken." "It works enough." I opened my phone, reserved an SUV, had it delivered to the hospital parking lot in Baltimore. He didn't argue this time. The consultation took 3 hours. The doctor was thorough, ran new tests, reviewed old ones, discussed options, clinical trials, experimental treatments, risks, percentages, survival rates. Marcus asked medical questions. I asked financial ones. What wasn't covered? What needed approval? What could be expedited with private payment? The doctor looked between us, trying to figure out our relationship. He didn't ask. We drove back in the rented SUV. Ethan was awake now, looking out the window. "This car smells new," he said. "It is new," Marcus said. "Did we get rich?" Marcus glanced at me. I kept my eyes on the road. "No, buddy, we didn't." Ethan was quiet for a minute. Then, "Is she rich?" "Yeah," Marcus said. "She is." "Cool." That was it. Cool. Then back to the window. Friday was Sloan Kettering. Same routine, different doctors, similar answers, 6 to 8 weeks, maybe less, maybe more. Transplant was the only real option. They'd keep searching for a match. I wrote checks for consultations, for expedited registry searches, for experimental treatment access. Amounts that made the billing department call their supervisors to confirm. Marcus watched me sign them. On the drive back, Ethan asked if we could stop for ice cream. "You're not supposed to have dairy right now," Marcus said. "Just this once?" Ethan's voice was small, hopeful. Marcus looked at me. I looked at the GPS. Found a place 2 exits ahead. We sat in the parking lot. Ethan ate strawberries slowly. Like even that exhausted him. "This is nice," he said. "All of us together." Marcus's hand tightened on his untouched cup. I took a bite of vanilla. It tasted like nothing. The days blurred together. More consultations, more tests, more waiting rooms, more machines, more doctors explaining odds and percentages and survival rates. Wednesday brought complications. Ethan's white blood cell count dropped. They admitted him again. Started stronger medication. He threw up 4 times in 3 hours. Marcus held the basin, wiped his face, talked him through it. Said it was okay, said he was doing great, said it would be over soon. I stood in the corner. Useless. I could write checks, make calls, move mountains with money. I couldn't do this. Thursday was worse. Ethan barely woke up. When he did, he didn't know where he was. Confusion was normal, the doctor said. Medication side effects. It would pass. Marcus didn't leave, didn't eat, barely drank water. I brought him food anyway, forced him to eat half a sandwich. You need rest, I said. I'm fine. You look like hell. I'm not leaving him. I didn't say leave, I said rest. Here, in the chair, I'll watch. He looked at me, at Ethan, back at me. You'll wake me if anything changes? Yes. He fell asleep in 90 seconds. I watched them both, father and son. Marcus's hand on Ethan's bed rail. Even asleep, holding on. Friday, Ethan was better. Not good, better. Awake, talking, asking for juice. The doctor came in with news. They'd found a match. In the registry. A 10 out of 10 match. Near perfect. The donor was willing. Surgery could be scheduled in 2 weeks. Marcus cried. Right there in the consultation room. Didn't try to hide it. Just put his head in his hands and sobbed. I sat very still. They discharged Ethan after a week of prep treatment. He could wait at home for the surgery, with restrictions, with medications. But home. Marcus's apartment was small, 1 bedroom, Ethan's room. Marcus slept on the couch. At the hospital exit, Marcus hesitated. There's a place for rent. 2 floors up from us, 1 bedroom, month to month. I looked at him. Just if you're staying, he said. For a while. I called the landlord from the parking lot. Signed a lease the next day, 2 floors up from Ethan, same building, separate space. I had my assistant ship equipment, a monitor, a desk, set up an office in the corner by the window, video calls, strategy meetings. My company ran fine without my physical presence. It always had. Every day at 4 p.m. I went downstairs, had dinner with Ethan and Marcus, helped with homework, read bedtime stories, watched Ethan get stronger in preparation for surgery, watched some color return to his face. Then I went back upstairs, to my own space, my own life, separate but close. The transplant was scheduled for a Tuesday, 6 a.m. We arrived at the hospital at 4:30. Ethan was groggy but calm. Marcus held his hand through pre-op. I stood at the foot of the bed. Will it hurt? Ethan asked. You'll be asleep, Marcus said. You won't feel anything. When I wake up, we'll be right here. Ethan looked at me. Both of you? Both of us, I said. They wheeled him away at 5:45. The surgery took 6 hours. Marcus and I sat in the waiting room. Didn't talk. Just waited. Around hour 4, he fell asleep. Head back, mouth open. Completely gone. I got a blanket from a nurse. Put it over him. He didn't wake. Hour 6, the surgeon came out. It went well, she said. Textbook. He's in recovery. You can see him in about an hour. Marcus woke when I touched his shoulder. It's done, I said. He's okay. He stood too fast, swayed. I caught his arm. When can we see him? Soon. We saw him at 2 p.m. He was unconscious. Would be for a while. Everything looked good. The next 72 hours were critical. After that, they'd know if his body was accepting the marrow. Marcus sat in his chair. I sat in mine. And we waited. Ethan woke up on day 3, groggy, confused, but awake. Marcus was at his bedside in seconds. I stayed in my chair. Hey, buddy. Ethan blinked slowly. Did it work? Too early to tell, but you made it through. That's the hard part. I'm tired. I know. Sleep more. He did. Day 5, Ethan stayed awake longer, asked for juice, asked what he'd missed. Marcus told him about a Mets game, made up a story about a nurse who brought the wrong pudding, made him laugh. I watched Marcus make our son laugh. Day 7, the doctor came in with news. The transplant is taking, she said. Early signs are very good. His body is accepting the new marrow. We'll continue to monitor closely. Watch for any signs of rejection. But this is exactly what we hoped to see. Marcus cried. Again. Right there in front of the doctor. Didn't try to hide it. I sat very still, hands folded in my lap. The doctor left. Marcus wiped his face, looked at me. We did it, he said. He's going to be okay. Maybe, I said. It's still early. But maybe, he said. That's more than we had last week. Day 9, they moved Ethan out of ICU, back to a regular room. He could have visitors, could sit up, could eat real food. He asked for pizza. They brought pizza. She sat with them while they ate. Ethan between them, Marcus telling stories, Ethan interrupting with questions. Normal, almost normal. Mom? I looked up. He'd never called me that before. Yeah? Are you leaving soon? Marcus stopped mid-bite, looked at me. The pizza felt heavy in my hands. Pepperoni, extra cheese, the kind they used to order on Fridays. Before. I have a business, I said. A company. People depending on me. Can't you do it from here? I looked at his face. Hopeful. Young. Mine. I'll think about it. Ethan went back to his pizza. Marcus kept looking at me. I didn't look back. Day 12, they discharged Ethan. He could go home, with restrictions, with follow-up appointments, with medications, but home. At the hospital exit, Marcus helped Ethan into the car, then turned to me. Thank you, he said quietly, for everything, for coming back, for the doctors, for... He stopped. Just thank you, I nodded. The apartment upstairs, he said. Your lease is month to month, so whenever you need to go back to your life, I understand. Okay, I said. He waited, like he was hoping I'd say more. I didn't. That night, after Ethan fell asleep, Marcus found me in the building's shared laundry room. I was folding clothes, something domestic and strange. He stood in the doorway, didn't come in. Can I ask you something? He said. Okay. Why did you really come back? I kept folding. He's my son. You left him 5 years ago. I did. So why come back now? I set down the shirt I was holding, looked at him. You want me to say it was because I finally forgave you, that I realized I was wrong? No, he said. I want the truth. The truth is, I came back because my uncle called and said my son was dying. And I realized that if I let him die without trying to save him, I'd never be able to live with myself. I picked up another shirt. The truth is, I still can't look at you without seeing that bedroom. Those candles. Her pulling up that sheet. He flinched. The truth is, I don't know if I can forgive what you did. I don't know if I want to. I just know that he's 5 years old and he's sick and he didn't ask for any of this. He asks about you, Marcus said quietly. All the time. Where were you? Why did you leave, if you're coming back? What do you tell him? I tell him the truth, that I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, and that you needed to go away for a while to heal from what I did. Does he understand that? He's 5. He understands that Daddy did something bad and Mommy had to leave. I went back to folding. I'm not asking you to stay, Marcus said. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not even asking you to be his mother. I know I don't have the right to ask for anything. Then what are you doing here? I'm telling you that if you want to know him, he wants to know you. And if you want to try, just try, to be part of his life, I won't stand in your way. I'll do whatever it takes to make that work. I looked at him. Really looked. At the man who'd destroyed my life, who'd also become a father, who'd spent 5 years trying to undo what couldn't be undone. I don't know if I can do this, I said. Okay. I don't know if I can be what he needs. Okay. I might fail. I might leave again. I might... Lena, he interrupted gently. You don't have to know. You just have to try. I finished folding the last shirt. I'll stay, I said. For now. I'll stay for now. He nodded, once, then left. I stood there in the laundry room, surrounded by clean clothes, in a building I'd never lived in a life I'd never planned. And for the first time in 5 years, I thought maybe, I could breathe. 4 weeks later, Ethan was strong enough to go back to school. Part-time at first, just mornings, but it was something. I drove him on his first day back. Marcus had an early shift at the furniture store, so it was just me and Ethan. Are you nervous? I asked. A little, he said. I missed a lot of school. You'll catch up. We pulled into the school parking lot. Other parents were dropping off their kids. Normal morning, normal routines. Ethan unbuckled his seatbelt, then stopped. Mom? Yeah? Are you going to be here when I get out? I looked at him, at his uncertain face, at the question underneath the question. I'll be here, I said. Promise? I thought about all the promises I'd broken, all the ways I'd failed, all the reasons I didn't deserve his trust. I promise, I said. He smiled, got out of the car, walked toward the school building, turned back once, waved. I waved back. Then I drove to my apartment, 2 floors up, separate but close. Opened my laptop, joined a video call with my team, reviewed quarterly projections, made decisions, ran my company. At 2:45 p.m., I closed the laptop, drove back to the school. Ethan came out at 3 p.m., saw my car. His face lit up. He got in, buckled himself. You came back. I said I would. I know, but you actually did. We drove home. He told me about his day, about the kids who asked where he'd been, about the teacher who gave him extra time on his work, about the boy who shared his snack. Normal kid things, normal day. At dinner, the 3 of us sat around Marcus's small table, Ethan between us. He was talking about a science project, something about volcanoes. Marcus caught my eye across the table, didn't say anything, just looked at me. I looked back. This wasn't forgiveness, not yet, maybe not ever. This wasn't a happy ending, just a different beginning. After dinner, I went upstairs, stood at my window, looked out at the street below, at people going home, starting their evenings, living their normal lives. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Same time tomorrow? I looked at the message for a long time, then typed back, same time tomorrow. Put my phone down. Outside, the streetlights came on, one by one, same as every night. Same as they had in the city where I built my company. Same as they had 5 years ago when I drove away with torn grass behind me. I pressed my hand to my stomach. Automatic. Empty. But the ache was different now. Not the ache of loss. Something else. Something trying to grow back. Slow. Uncertain. But there. I didn't know if this would work. If I could be the mother Ethan needed. If Marcus and I could exist in the same space without destroying each other again. I didn't know if I'd stay a year or 5 years or forever. I just knew that tomorrow I'd drive Ethan to school. And I'd be there at 3 p.m. when he got out. And the day after that, I'd do it again. And maybe that was enough. Maybe doing it one day at a time was all anyone could do. I stood there until the sky went dark, until the street emptied, until it was just me and the window and the lights. Then I went to bed. Tomorrow I'd go downstairs. The day after, I'd go downstairs again. And maybe one day, downstairs wouldn't feel temporary. But that was later. Right now, I was here. And right now was enough. Some betrayals break us completely. And sometimes survival means choosing yourself, even when the world calls you a monster for it. But redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about showing up anyway, one day at a time, even when you're terrified, even when you don't know if you'll stay. Because the people we hurt deserve our effort, even if they never deserve our perfection. Thank you for listening. If this story moved you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment about which choice you would have made. Would you have left? Or would you have stayed? I read every comment. And see you in the next one, and Happy New Year.